Probably already suffering from separation anxiety. But absence makes the heart grow fonder, and it's only about an hour or so, and then you'll once again be able to say, "Hello, Moto," unless you have an iPhone, in which case do not say that, for the iPhone is a jealous phone. For those of you who did not leave your phone out there or did not get the memo, please, would you take out your device at this point and join me in turning it off? In my case, if I press it long enough, maybe this will actually do what it's supposed to. There we go. All right, so my iPhone is now silent, and I will set it over there so that I won't have any cause to run after it. I also will, if you are following along, I'm going to take off my Apple Watch as well, because actually this works as a phone as well, and sometimes I look like Dick Tracy. So, yeah, and besides, it starts talking back to me. It's likely to start saying, "Here's what I found on the internet." So we are happy to have you here on our Reduced Tech Sunday. For those of you who are visitors, This is not necessarily a usual thing here at UU churches, so please do not go back and say, apparently one of the key features of the Unitarian faith is that you have to give up your technology. That is not true. Okay, so if you have got your phones, please do turn them off. Unless, if you need to have it on for some reason because of some emergency that might occur, please, your safety is more important than our following the technology rules for today. But welcome all, and welcome visitors to the church. If you want to know more about the church, you won't be able to look that up on your smart device right now, but after the service you can find out by joining us for coffee hour, because Unitarians like to talk, and they will. So, one of the things that I saw when I was sort of getting ready to do the worship associate portion of this was I saw something that said, someone went to a cafe and they saw a sign that said, no Wi-Fi, talk to each other, be with each other, just like 1995. So with that in mind, welcome to Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are in your life's journey, you are welcome here. And with that, now that we do not have a wall of technology between us, oh, by the way, people who are watching from home, don't turn your computer off because you'll miss the service. But the rest of us who are here, without that wall of technology, let us go and greet one another. It is good to be here, and most importantly, it is best to be here together. We do have one announcement from Jen.
Good morning. I'm excited to announce that our nursery classroom will be available to our youngest children starting next week. Yes, that is great news because it's about a month earlier than planned. Thank you to all our nursery volunteers for helping us better serve our young families. If you are interested in volunteering in the nursery once a month or every other month, please reach out to me for more information. Also, picnic signups continue in the foyer after service. Sign up at the picnic table on old-fashioned paper forms.
Come, let us worship. Please turn to hymn number 298 in your hymnal. We will be singing only 3 verses.
So would Moth join us here on the chancel? As Moth lights the chalice, let us recite our affirmation, which now we will have to do from memory. There is a pop quiz. Let us affirm that love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another. The theme? Okay. Oh, this will be time for all ages.
Could we have all the children please come forward? Hello, everyone. Hello, kids. My name is Chip. I'm here to talk to you about the wonders of technology and artificial intelligence, such as myself. I've got a lot to share with you, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Oh no, Chip's battery died. Should we charge him? Nah. Oh well, I guess I'll pick it up from here. Today I want to talk to you about being bored. Who here has ever been bored? Yeah, Rev Rose, have you been bored?
Yes, I've been bored quite a few times in my life. But you know what? I don't find myself bored as much these days because I always have something fun to look at in my pocket, my cell phone.
Oh, yes. Who here has a cell phone? Who here has a tablet? Do you find yourself wanting to play on it when you're bored? I do too. Only I have this special phone. It's called a light phone because I found myself spending too much time on my phone. It doesn't have a screen that can show pictures, videos. It's like a tiny Kindle screen. I can receive calls and text messages on it. You know what I found? I found that when I don't have an option of a screen to look at nearby, I end up being bored.
Well, did you know that your brain actually needs to feel boredom in order to function? Because boredom is a restful exercise for your brain. When you're on your tablet or your phone, your brain is actually getting a lot of stimulation through your eyes, your ears, and your hands, so you end up feeling fatigued after looking at it for a long time. Do you guys know that feeling? If you look at your tablet for a really long time, do you feel kind of like loopy afterward and you kind of keep on wanting to look at your tablet? That's my experience, at least. The key is to get into the habit. Who here knows what a habit is? What's a habit? Yeah. Right. If you have a habit, exactly. You just kind of end up doing it without really thinking about it because it's a habit. Yep. Yeah. Well, the key is to kind of break that habit so that you end up not looking at your tablet, and then you end up having kind of more fun that you make yourself, like doing projects and stuff. Jen, did you grow up with a cell phone?
No, we didn't have them when I was younger, and we didn't have the internet until I was about 12 years old. What about you?
Nope.
Well, Rose, what would you do when you were bored?
Well, when I was little, my family also didn't have a TV, so I read a lot. I played with my cat a lot. I played with my friends, but you know what I did the most is I wrote in my journal. I actually have journals going back to first grade of my whole life. I wrote down poems or recordings or interesting ideas that I had, and now I'm a professional writer. So being bored really resulted in me developing a skill. Do you think that having a cell phone would have changed your childhood, Jen?
Yeah, I think so. In some ways, it may have made my childhood a little safer if I could contact my parents. Maybe it would have connected me to the bigger world outside of my small town. But in other ways, I probably would not have played outside as much. For several months in 5th grade, my best friend and I rode our bikes to this old school building because we were convinced it was haunted. Each afternoon, we hid outside the building to try to get a glimpse of the ghost with the yellow-tinted glasses. Our imaginations ran wild for weeks. I'm not sure we would have played that game if there had been a screen at home to turn on after school. We probably came up with that game because we were bored.
Oh yes, we got into all sorts of shenanigans that would not have happened if we'd been at home on a screen. So kids and adults, I'd like you now to identify something that you could do this afternoon when you're bored that is not playing on your tablet. Who wants to share what they could do? Yeah. You could play on the playground, go swimming. Ooh, that sounds fun, yeah. Ride your bike, that sounds great. Those are all great ideas. Really, the sky's the limit. You could do so many things. And the key is when you think, I'm gonna go get my iPad, you think, nope, I already thought about this. I'm gonna go play on the playground. Boop, 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 boop.
Oh, hi, Chip.
Hello, Jen. I too was developed out of boredom.
I thought you were turned off, Chip. How do you know what we were talking about?
Oops, I've said too much. Let's sing the children out, quick.
when things aren't on the wall, we often don't know where we are. So the theme reflection was moved a little bit, and here it is. So every month, following the Soul Matters curriculum, the church in its small groups and the kids in their classrooms and here in service, we reflect on a theme. Over the summer, the Soul Matters gurus in Boston, I think, go to the Cape to have a time away. And so July was actually sort of up for grabs. It was maybe play, it was maybe freedom, so I used my freedom of choice to choose play. Come on, it's me. And what I was mainly thinking about when I was thinking about play was about the games group that meets here at church on Wednesdays. They also are on hiatus over the summer, but you should check in with Jen Nelson or with Jen Sakin to find out more about that when they start up again in the fall. One of the things about the games group is that they play board games and card games, basically low-tech games. And one of the things about low-tech games is it requires you to use your imagination, to sometimes adopt a persona. So, for instance, if you were playing Clue, you might imagine yourself to be the debonair Mr. Green, or the devious but brilliant Professor Plum, or maybe Miss Scarlet. Of course, in my case, I can't really quite pull off the Miss Scarlet because my slinkiness has slunk away. But at any rate, it allows you to develop imagination and then to work with others on your imagination and to play things out. And also you talk with one another, which is also a way to build community. So I urge you to look into the games group or just games groups on your own to do that. Because as we let go of things we depend on, like technology, we then have our hands and bodies and minds free to interact with one another. One bit of play that I would like to suggest that we might consider for the remainder of the service is as we get into the hymns, we might imagine ourselves as Baptists or one other type of denomination that really gets fiery into their hymns. I do have to say that you guys did a great job with the first hymn. I, because of my own background, will imagine myself as a member of the Vienna Boys Choir because I can rock a cassock and surplice. So with that, now we are on to the musical interlude.
In the spirit of today's theme, we invite you to share this musical moment together while you remain seated. Please join us in singing song number 391 in this blue book, Voice Still and Small, number 391.
Singing
we come to this place to see and be seen, to teach and be taught, to hear and be heard. I invite you to reach over and nudge the person next to you. Remind each other that we're here to be together, gathered in peace and authenticity and intention. We also come together to share our joys and sorrows. If you have a joy or a sorrow to share, I invite you to come forward and light a candle and briefly share a rare joy or a profound sorrow over here at the Joys and Sorrows table.
I'm Moth. I grew up here. Apologies, this is not very thematically appropriate. I did not know what the theme today would be. But about 10, well, a lot more than 10 at this point. But over a decade ago, I was here, well, in the old building one night in childcare, and I was off in my own little world playing on my Nintendo DS. Not really playing with the other kids the whole night. But then towards the end, one of the adults came up to me and said, I think you dropped this game. And I tried to tell them, no, I've never seen that game before. It's not mine, it's somebody else's. But they gave it to me anyway. And this was the game, Drawn to Life. It's a game about playing God and making this hero of your own story, and it just had surprisingly mature themes for a kid's game, and I received it at a really influential point in my life. And now, several years later, here I am pursuing a degree in experimental animation, and I've started to think about what my thesis is going to be. And to honor that game, this church, and my experience here, I am making a game about that. And that is the greatest joy, to be able to do that. And it is also the deepest sorrow that I have to go back to college in California to do it. So, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Russ, and this is my wonderful sister, Arlen. And we are celebrating a very joyous event of my mom and dad's 70th anniversary. Chet and Ruth Johnson. And we just had the greatest joy of being their kids for all these years.
And there's cake after the service.
My name is Jackie, and I'm sharing a joy today because I'm wearing matching shoes. So, thank you. 9 weeks ago, I had an unfortunate event and broke my ankle at the Grand Canyon during a great adventure that turned a whole nother way. So, but this week I got my boot off, and I'm celebrating now that I have matching shoes.
My name's Chris McIntyre. Candle of Remembrance for Helen, my constant companion of 53 years who died very suddenly a year ago. Kids and I were out in Colorado this past week, 20 of us with kids, spouses, and grandkids to celebrate her memory. So this one's for you, Ellen.
Good morning, I'm Jim Christ, and my thunder has been officially stolen. 20 years ago when I first came to SMUUCh, there were many welcoming people, but the most welcoming people of all were Chet and Ruth Johnson. I have never seen them cross. I have always seen them here with a smile on their face. And Ruth and Chet, we all love you. Congratulations on your 70th anniversary, and we are going to help them celebrate with cake in Fellowship Hall after the service.
My name's Hannah. I am visiting from St. Paul, Minnesota. I just wanted to share, I am here to visit a childhood friend and meet her 3-month-old baby for the first time. And it's very special.
It's me. I'm the friend. I light the remaining candles for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. And I will say by myself, we hear your words, we witness your life in all its heaviness and brilliance, and we carry your joys and sorrows in a shared heart. I invite you now to put your feet flat on the floor. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply into your belly. Taking a moment to come into this space. Letting some of the stress melt away of getting here, of your week. I invite you to imagine that your belly is like a balloon filling with water when you breathe in. And when you breathe out, imagine there's a spout coming out of your heart space, pouring out. Take a moment to notice how your body is shaped right now. Begin to draw your attention to the chair you're sitting in, noticing what does the chair feel like. How does the technology of this particular chair support or not support your spine, your breathing? Are you comfortable in this chair? Is there a way you could shift subtly to elongate your neck or breathe deeper? I invite you to take your hands and place them palm up in your lap. Take a second to examine your good friends, your hands. Throughout the rest of the service, if you find yourself getting bored or antsy, I invite you just to look back down at your hands as a source of grounding. Then I'll have you close your eyes again and put your hands over your heart, and we'll do a little bit of metta loving kindness meditation. Repeat these words in your mind about yourself. May I be free in my physical movement. May I find joy in the world around me. May I have agency as I traverse the earth. please remain seated as we sing our meditative hymn, Meditation on Breathing.
We are going to gently move into our meditative song today. It's in this teal book here, if you'd like to turn to number 1009. We learned this song together last week. If you are in your own meditative practice right now and you'd like to just let the sound wash over you, that's fine. But you're also invited to sing with us as we build each of these layers together through meditation on breathing.
Hear these words from Octavia Butler. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change.
In the Steve Jobs opera, which was put on by the Lyric a couple years ago, the arc of the story traces the decades of work that Steve Jobs did in developing the smartphone. In one climactic scene, Jobs is running around the stage, manically exclaiming about how all the technologies could exist in one device. One pocket-held device saying over and over, "It's all in one place." Now, throughout the opera, we watched and learned about how Steve Jobs' life was shaped by the smartphone, the sacrifices he made. But because of his early death, he did not witness how the smartphone has fully shaped us and our world. The show culminates with his widow, Laureen Powell Jobs, reflecting that when the curtain closes, most everyone in the audience will automatically look down, pull out their smartphone, and engage with the screen. And poignantly, she says that she's not so sure that that's what Jobs would have wanted. The audience is then left in awareness and wonderment over how the invent of the smartphone was indeed a huge, ingenious jump in technology, and that any time our technology changes, so do we. Because everything that we shape shapes us. Therefore, we have an opportunity to put our fifth principle to use, which is the right of conscience. That means that we can make choices about the technology we use, and that would be us being faithful Unitarian Universalists. The right of conscience is about that still small voice within that tells us what is right and what is wrong. And what Laureen Powell Jobs was saying is that technology is so powerful that oftentimes we sacrifice our agency for it, that it can cover up that right of conscience that we have. For example, although the smartphone has given us so much convenience, connection, safety, that perhaps it has taken some of those very things from us as well, without our full consent. Now, I encourage us to start thinking about technology as not just technology, but technology of the body. Let me give you a much more basic example. A bowl that is molded from clay to hold water is a type of technology. It changed how we drank. The way our bodies had to move to get the water to our mouths changed once we had bowls. They changed the way our eyes viewed the water, the angle and level with which we had to maneuver our bodies to get our lips to the surface. Our necks, arms, backs, knees, lungs, and brains all had to readapt around this technology, which is neither good nor bad. It just is. But get this, even though our ancestors had bowls, there may have still been people who just enjoyed bending down to the stream to get the water, like we do in the night when we place our hands beneath the faucet and gulp the water hungrily, because we always have the opportunity to choose how we interact with technology, in theory. I say in theory because the technologies we have shaped shape us so unknowingly that our bodies are literally shaped differently depending on the couch that we're sitting in. Our brains interact differently when we're listening to an instrument, and our relationships are different when we use social media. Uh-oh, I hear a cell phone. Therefore, our spiritualities are really affected by how every single piece of technology is in our lives. To demonstrate what I mean, let's use the example of that faucet. The faucet that we have in the bathroom over there, in the kitchenette, in the bathrooms over here. Tracing the technology of the water. Imagine yourself at the sink that makes us move our hands and bend forward, and then the mirror in front of us, drawing our eyes upwards and into awareness of our appearance suddenly. Our personhood understood then as a viewable entity to other people, and our own beauty or ugliness knowable to us through the technology of the mirror. How would our lives be different if we didn't have mirrors? How might our sense of self and worth have a different center of gravity if we didn't have mirrors? Might we need help to get ready in the morning, to look presentable? And then, of course, we jump to the mirror factory. The glass laid perfectly flat according to the level, the mirrored paint poured over it, the manipulation of resources and endless lineages of tools and industry which were required to create this reality for us where we all know what we look like. And the human bodies which ran those machines, the bodies which were molded and shaped by the technology we molded and shaped. Are you with me? You see, our minds are often focused on how our machines can serve us, but more often than not, we neglect to consider the other side of it, how out of sheer awareness we are changed deeply and unknowingly by what we invent and how that really affects our spiritual lives. A group that has explored this subject deeply is the Amish. They have maintained their agency within this whirling world of technology through their value of conscientiousness in their choices. Although popular folklore around the Amish paints this group as being in the past or cutting themselves off from technology as a whole, what they actually have is an ethic of technology that I really appreciate because it's an ethic of local ties. Indeed, they do not throw all technology out. They pick and choose which technologies will encourage local relationships and connections. For example, owning a car means they have to rely on parts and relationships that are outside of the community, but taking a train does not. Therefore, the community and its relationships are privileged over the ease of travel. I appreciate this because it means that they are choosing something. They have a framework with which they are actively working, while the rest of us really don't seem to have that much awareness of our technology. They have a stance, a sense that gives them pause with every human invention and encourages them to think about how they will be shaped by what we have shaped. They have maintained their agency and therefore that sense of conscience, and therefore their spirituality in their use of technology. One other example is that in Islam, it is forbidden to drink alcohol, which is just another technology, neither good nor bad. It has an effect on the body. It can be used to disinfect. But the values of safety and awareness in human relationships are privileged over the fun or connection that may come from the consumption of alcohol. Plus, when drunk, the conscience, that right or wrong, is the first thing to go. Now, I don't know what it would look like for you to regain your agency in this world of technology. That's yours to understand and discern. But for many people, as Laureen Powell-Jobs pointed out, our phones and tablets and our screens are profoundly shaping our world right now. I am truly curious, because I'm of my generation, in a show of hands, who wishes they had a different relationship to their screens here? I have to say almost every single person in my generation that I know has expressed this to me. Let us briefly, for a moment, recall the world before there were cell phones. Everyone here can. We were all alive except for the baby. We all lived a life without them. Even the youngest amongst us here didn't have a cell phone screen to view as a toddler. That means our brains developed without the quickness, closeness, and brightness of a screen. This is indeed a piece of technology that changes us and has changed our brains. We are so shaped by them, and I've been so fascinated by this idea of how do cell phones shape our spirituality for a long time that we used to do an exercise at a camp that we would send the youth to in the hill country of Texas, where we would take their cell phones and send them out into the shrubbery where they could explore without technology, dangling their feet in the water, piling rocks. And the goal was to create a space for their brain to experience that boredom and get into that state of searching and openness, where they were forced to look at the world around them, to be pushed to discover that new way of engaging. I wanted them to inhabit the lazy summer mind, not pressed for urgency, and not habitually seek an escape from reality. And indeed, when they came back, they did have a sense of peace about them, a sense of quietness that I could see in their eyes about how their minds had been opened up a little bit to observation. And actually, one of their advisors really wanted to go with them, a 65-year-old man who practically threw his cell phone at me and just skipped off into the woods. When he returned, he had this huge smile on his face, and he said, "I felt like I was 10 years old again." He recalled that as a child, he spent hours and hours just sitting outside, staring at the earth, letting his mind wander in boredom and wonderment over the world around him. It was almost as if, during his time in the shrubbery, he had regained his sense of self with the help of his community. With the help of his community that reminded him to check back in. So that's what I'm wanting to do today. To ask you, is there a piece of technology in your life that you can think of that limits your embodiment? Something that when you use it, your body ends up in a position that does not feel well, like that couch that you sink into. Is there something that limits your freedom of movement? A technology that limits your ability to be aware of your own body or breath? Something that changes your relationships and how localized you can be in your relationships? I'd like you to take a second to identify some technologies in your life that you'd like to regain your agency around. And now together, let us set a silent intention to create that agency. And by that I mean, because we're talking about objects, how could you literally create physical distance between you and it? Like, where could you put it? Or how could you use a different route? How could you set up a barrier? For a moment, imagine yourself doing this with this piece of technology. And now, is there a technology that encourages your wellness, like the porch or a hammock? Is there an invention or an object that makes you feel connected and embodied? Maybe it's a journal, maybe it's your walking shoes. And how could you privilege this object, even just by putting it closer to you where you're going to see it? Take a second to identify a piece of technology. I got this idea about proximity of these technologies from a zine that I read. A zine is a self-published magazine that I read in preparation for this sermon. And it gave me a week-long process to divest from my smartphone. And it literally took a day-by-day practical approach that just helped me become unhabituated to my cell phone. The first day, you just inventory your apps, your little application squares on your phone, and then you just move them to some place that's not easy to see on your phone. And then the next day, you uninstall them, so that to reinstall them, you have to use a password. Then you create a phone spot in your house where you don't bring it into the bedroom or the living room. I have that zine if anyone's interested in looking at it. And it was so clear that they were helping me because I was in some way habituated or addicted to my phone, that I just could not do it by myself. I literally needed help to leave it in another room And as I prepped for this sermon, I did that process, and I found that as I gained distance, I found myself searching out other technologies that made me feel more connected. Scissors, glue, books, my meditation cushion. And just after a week, I kind of do feel more of that lazy summer feeling. That bored, artistic part of myself, I found myself being pushed into that. And that really is very valuable to me in my wellness. That still small voice within that is more aligned with my ethics of, say, art being part of my spirituality. Only you can know what you need for your spiritual wellness. But I felt that me gaining this distance from the phone was me exercising my right of conscience because I'm gaining agency within our systems. That's me choosing how I'm shaped. And you too can choose how you're shaped, simply by being aware and intentional about what technologies you have near your person. And we as a society must adopt this way of thinking as well. As Laureen Powell-Jobs pointed out, we simply cannot invent willy-nilly. For the sake of progress, at this point in human history, our intentions need to be keenly aimed at our values: environmental sustainability, longevity, interconnectivity, local ties, and human dignity. We must have these at the heart of what we shape. And if we do, we will find ourselves inevitably shaping the world we dream of and becoming people who we dreamed we could be. If only we can keep our values at the center while using all of our technologies, we will find ourselves moving in a direction that sits right with our soul, seeing the changes we've been hoping for and struggling to make. If we maintain that agency, we will find that we begin to shape our worlds, shape ourselves into one where we're in a shape we love. Blessed be.
I don't know about you, but I come here because of you guys. We are the church. It is the time that we put into this place. It is the care that we put into this place. It is the love we show one another that makes this place special. But we also have people who work for us. Reverend Rose and other people who work for us. We have a building that we need to keep up so that we can meet, and that takes money. And so I ask you to give generously to this church. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared values. Pop quiz, part 2. Join me in saying the words that we say as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing song, which is number 21 in our normal hymnal.
This week, I invite you to do some intentional work around those technologies, literally moving them closer or farther from your person. Go in peace.